Welcome, everybody, to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. I am your host, Osiris Prime, and tonight we have our second part of our E3 extravaganza going here. We have lots to talk about tonight. So Sunday we did our Microsoft and EA show because they had their press conferences then, and we talked a little bit about Bethesda, or touched on it, I should say. But tonight we're going to go through Bethesda and some other companies. But before we get to that, let's get to our other hosts here. So, Mr. Swissguard, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I had it's been an interesting E3, but I think everybody's going to see all of our Nintendo fanboyishness come out soon.
At least the two of us.
Yeah.
We'll see about the others. But we also have Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how's your E3 going?
It's going okay. It is, as my voice cracks, right? Oh, it's going great. No, I think I am, but you know what? It's different being on this side of the chair. So I'm thinking about Sunday night and hosting, and I definitely the energy level is a little different for me, at least, because I'm not trying to pump us all up after a day of conferences. That we've had 2 days of conferences, and I think you're feeling it in our voices. We're like, okay, let's talk about these now, I guess. So, but Agasicles was not here on Sunday night, so I am very interested to hear his perspective on some things as we move through this evening.
Yes, he was MIA, but he is here tonight. So, Agasicles, how are you doing?
All right, we're doing okay.
All right, good. Let's try to get that excitement up here. All right, so let's get started because we got about 5 companies here we're going to go through. We're going to start off with Bethesda. So like I said, we touched on it a little bit last Sunday, but we're going to roll through this probably fairly quickly. We're going to start with Rage. They started off with Rage 2. And before you go, Zeus, or Agasicles, excuse me, I just want to say just what they've shown of it. I'm really liking this game. It has a really cool vibe to it. I like all the games lately that I really like. I like all the colors they've got in it, even though it's kind of a post-apocalyptic game. So that's kind of my take on it. Just because I unfortunately I didn't get to go back and go more in depth in Bethesda's conference, and I didn't get to see I know there's been a bunch of gameplay videos and stuff like that, but for now it is holding my interest. So we're gonna see if that keeps up going through. I don't know. Did they give a release date for that yet? I don't remember. I don't think so. So, Agasicles, what are your thoughts on Rage 2?
Yeah, sorry, and they did give a release date of spring of 2019.
Okay.
So did you guys already talk about the opening of Bethesda show, or are we not discussing that tonight?
No, you can mention it though.
So it was very awkward.
I know UVB liked it very much.
Yeah, I don't know how much listeners or any of you guys keep up with this stuff, but the only tech event that I can remember being this awkward was Samsung's. I think it was for the Galaxy S4, where they did this whole mock Broadway show that was all about why women would like the Galaxy S4 because they could touch it and keep their nails dry. So this felt, again, kind of like the same thing, like a very tone-deaf in a lot of ways, awkward pacing. They brought several developers up on stage, and there were they were in pairs, and there were these long, awkward pauses when one person would say something and the other person would just remain silent. So I don't know if there was a problem with their teleprompter or if it was an issue with non-native English speakers or what, but there were several Schadenfreude. DB, help me out.
I would say Schadenfreude.
Yeah, moments where they were just very cringeworthy, and it felt like somebody was, running their fingernails across a chalkboard. But yeah, Rage 2. Again, as I think I mentioned before, it has my personal interest. I played Rage 1. I used it as a demo to test some hardware. I haven't actually played a lot of it on PC, and I still mean to. But I thought it was very interesting. Avalanche Studios, so the guys who do Just Cause, so that's exciting. It was in-engine footage, so that was a thing that I definitely keyed up on. Very Mad Max. Although the one thing that stood out to me is in the build. It didn't look like, if you notice, it didn't look like the AI was fully up to speed. It looked like, or else the game was just set on super easy, like the AI were not effective whatsoever. and didn't really seem to present a threat. So I don't know if that was an issue of early build, but in-game footage and a release time frame at least.
Yeah, so yeah, it should be hopefully they'll polish it up by next year. And like I said, I didn't get to go back and watch the whole conference. It was it started going off when we were doing our show on Sunday. So, but I did see that beginning, and just people in the crowd were just like stone faced. Like there's like no emotion whatsoever. It was kind of hilarious. But so next up we got Elder Scrolls Legends, which I believe is releasing on everything, even the Switch. And once again, I don't have a date here, so I don't know. I'm not sure when that's. I think maybe the fall. If anybody can correct me on that or look that up. We got Doom Eternal.
I don't believe there was any release date announced for that.
No, because Legends is already out and playable. I think there was an announcement about it coming to the Switch, right?
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was. All right. Yep. And then we have Doom Eternal, and I guess, please, I believe you had a quick blurb on this.
Yeah, so no release date on this. However, was just very excited from one, just know, at least I didn't have any intel or any catch any leaks. Again, I've tried to avoid some of that stuff, but I don't know that we knew anything about this game. It was pretty exciting. 2 years. It's been 2 years since the game came out. They are going to discuss it some more at QuakeCon in August. And the most exciting thing about it is that it takes place on Earth, which, as far as I know, is the first time that the Doom franchise has gone to Earth. So that I find very exciting. It really, I mean, Mars is a very nondescript, flat, red rock planet. Bringing it to Earth gives you all sorts of exciting potential for geography and terrain and locations, and just pretty much a limitless area as far as DLC goes. If they explore that thereafter.
Did you play the last Doom game, the reboot, I guess, if you want to call it?
Yeah, so I played on PlayStation 4, and I also have been playing a little bit on Nintendo Switch, and I really like it on the Switch. So.
Oh, cool. Nice. All right, up next we got Quake Champions. I thought that was already released. I don't know, maybe they were just talking about it, I guess. I'm not really sure what...
Yeah, it was already released. It is a free download this week with E3, and if you download it now, it'll remain free even when the price goes back. So
just on PC though, right?
Yes, I'm pretty. I mean, to me, this is a let's populate our servers type of move more than it is any other type of announcement. There wasn't a whole lot new there.
Right. Okay, that's what I figured. And then we come up to the Prey DLC, which I don't have the name here. I think what it was called, Moon
Crush.
Moon Crash. There we go.
So it's two different packages. It's so there's an update that was available that was live like right after the show or at the beginning of the show that had some content and new survival mode, I think. But the Moon Crash DLC, which comes out, I thought later this summer. I might be confused. Either Moon Crash. There's two DLCs. I'm not sure whether Moon Crash is the first one or the next one. But there's a second DLC coming later this summer so I guess Moon Crash is the one that's available now. And that's the more story-driven one. The one that's available later this summer is this weird 1v5 game, which I guess is the thing that struck a chord to me that sounded like it was like Evolve or I don't know what other, Friday the 13th, where there's one person, there's one human basically, and then the other 5 can be mimics. So I don't know. That was just kind of a weird mode. I mean, Prey is kind of this. It's a no-risk property, right? Only so many people played it. The uptake wasn't that great. Critical darling, kind of, but not a ton of people played it. So you can kind of play around with it, however you see fit. But it was still pretty neat. It was one of the rumors that we got wind of before E3, and it was nice to see that one pan out.
Cool, nice. And then another game, excuse me, that I believe has gotten critical praise and maybe not so much on the sales side, but Wolfenstein. There's going to be, I guess it's DLC or like an add-on called Youngblood, and Zeus, I believe you want to talk about that too.
So
that's
cool, I believe right? I believe that's an entirely new game. I don't believe that's DLC. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to work similar to when they did Wolfenstein and then they did Wolfenstein First Blood, right? It was a smaller package game, but it was a standalone property.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's Wolfenstein Youngblood featuring B.J. Blazkowicz's twin daughters. You can play it co-op, and it has a release date of sometime in 2019, so I'm expecting holiday.
Nice. All right, up next we got Fallout 76, the big. I think that was everybody was waiting for that one. And real quick, I had mentioned that it looked like it was an always online game, and during the Sunday shows, and that's what it's going to be, evidently. So it's very interesting that they went that route. They said everybody you meet.
It is always online, but I believe, as far as I understand, if I remember what Todd Howard said correctly, is you can isolate and you can play it as a single player experience.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how they're doing it. I was talking to a buddy at work that today. What jumps to my mind is Test Drive Unlimited, the one on Hawaii, and then also Need for Speed Rivals, where you had a toggle switch where you could basically say, I want to be in the world or not in the world. I'm not sure if that's exactly how the Bethesda one will work, but I do know Todd did say you would be able to play it as a single-player experience or join up. Or just exist in the world, right? Because in the demo reel, what they showed was, he mentioned, not all of your, fellow human players will be friendly. And as the guy was, walking through the forest or woods or whatever, some guy opened up on him with an RPG. So
Nice. Yeah, I did hear him mention that, or somebody from maybe the development team, that everybody you see in that game is going to be a human person. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Next, we got Fallout Shelter, which is released now on the Switch and on everything else.
Well, I'm sorry. Can we? So the big deal about so this game was demoed at the Microsoft conference, which I reckon you guys talked about on Sunday night. But a release date was not revealed at the Microsoft conference. At the Bethesda conference, they did drop a release date, and much like was it Fallout 3 or Fallout 4, when the first time they showed it, they did a release date.
Yep.
So same deal, roughly the same time frame. So it has a release date of November 14th of this year.
And this is the first time we get actual gameplay as well. So they spent a lot more time on it here and gave people finally a real taste of what it actually is.
Yeah. Yep. You can build up stuff, settlements and stuff like that, just like in 4. Well, I think a little bit more than you could in 4. So I know I saw that. So that should be pretty cool. Fallout Shelter, like I said, it's available now on the Switch, so you can download it. I downloaded it. I haven't played it yet though. I kind of dabbled it with it on the Xbox One, I believe. And it maybe even out on my phone, but it is what it is, I suppose. Elder Scrolls Blades, DB, I think you wanted to talk on this, which is a mobile game.
Yeah, not too much. I mean, not a whole lot, but just kind of it'll be interesting to see how this market lands, right? And where if this is a free-to-play game, which they've kind of said it is, and so how I can never say that word, right? Monetize. Thank you. Where they pull that revenue in from. I've been reading some. Polygon had a nice article about it, and they said, it's definitely not a full Elder Scrolls game, but it works surprisingly well in portrait mode, in kind of how much it is successful as a portrait mode kind of single-handed game, in that same vein as how Morio Run kind of worked as kind of distilling it down to the core. So anyhow, and then we get a new game for probably a new console, right?
Yes, Starfield was announced and he said it was being built for next gen. So assuming that's for, whatever the Xbox and PS5, I'm assuming it's going to be the next numbered PlayStation. They didn't really say exactly, just said next gen when Howard was talking on stage. So it's sci-fi. They show like a planet in space and like a space station, and then it kind of like zoomed away or like went to light speed or something like that. So, and then it was just said Starfield after that. So nothing, not a lot of information, but it's good that they're going sci-fi, which is cool. I'm definitely going to check that out. And then we got the big dog. Finally, we get official confirmation of Elder Scrolls 6 game, which once again was basically the same thing as Starfield. It was kind of just a mountain kind of terrain area, and I guess there was a city in the background which you could see, which I didn't realize until I read up on that later on. Kind of on a coastal, I don't know if it was a lake or an ocean or something. So, and then once again, there's no release date or not much anything talked about that. But Swiss, did you have any comments on that one?
I was just curious why they teased it, if they felt obligated to tease it or they wanted to, because I don't think we're going to see it for years, just based on the fact that they didn't even announce like the title or anything. It's just the Elder Scrolls 6 with the music, and for all we know, it could be a next gen game as well. And
I thought it was for confidence building. I think it's just to give a hand wave to people who are saying you guys aren't doing anything with Elder Scrolls except the online thing, and before those players potentially, I don't know, whatever, invest or dive into other franchises and think they're not coming back. I think it's just a stake in the ground.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what Respawn did at EA's press conference, right? Like, yep, this game exists. We're working on it. We're not going to say anything more, but now you know it exists.
Yeah, they did say this was actually coming out after Starfield, and we don't know when Starfield's coming out either, so it's going to be a while.
So I'll say, and it probably breaks with what everybody else is saying now, despite all the rumors that have flurried up today in the wake of these press conferences about the next gen Xbox and all that whatnot. I'm not reading into Todd Howard's statement as necessarily being next generation. That would have to mean that they have development kits right now. I just read it as it's just on our next version of technology in a new engine, not built upon Elder Scrolls technology. It would not surprise me at all that jumping genres, that they would have had to build new technology to support whatever his vision of Starfield was. So that's all I'm reading into it. It may very well be next gen, but like I said, that would have to mean that they have development kits now.
True.
But I think that was the big hope with any Elder Scrolls announcement, is that it wasn't going to be on that same engine, is that it was that they are working on a new engine. Even if they don't have anything to show it, I think you're right, Zeus, Agassicles, that it does provide us with just some confidence there.
Yep. Well, we'll see. It's probably going to be for a while, though. So that was it for Bethesda. Any last comments on Bethesda? Like I said, I didn't get to really watch anything on it, so I can't really comment overall on the presentation or anything like that. So
yeah, that's my only comment is I felt it wasn't as sharp a show as last year. Todd Howard being on the stage was great. I mean, actually, quite frankly, I think it was a conference saver for them. Like I said, lots of things up until that point were super awkward. The Doom guys, like, everybody kept saying things and then like pausing, waiting for maybe they need like an applausometer or like a laugh track or something, but like they kept taking these, forgive the term, pregnant pauses, waiting for reactions from the crowd, and then they didn't get them, so they would just continue to pause. So it was kind of painful to a certain extent, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So if there's no other comments, let's jump into Square Enix, which I actually didn't get to see any of this conference, but a lot of the stuff I believe is shown on most of the other conferences. So we'll start off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Excuse me, Zeus, or I guess you had a few things to say on this one.
Yeah, and I'm having a little bit of a tough time because you can't open multiple notes in Flock. The only thing I wanted to mention about Bethesda too is, I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm going to barbs with people, but for all the hoopla there is about the Bethesda conference, they announced 3 release dates, right? So they announced Fallout 76, they announced Rage 2 for next spring, and they gave Wolfenstein Youngblood a whole year swath. So there were some neat things mentioned, but not a lot of release dates. And like I said, there was a good chunk of awkwardness. So Square Enix, and help cue me out again, Prime, while I'm trying to get the agenda back open.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You had a few bullet points you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. You got multiple gadgets there that you're working off of.
Yeah, unfortunately, I took lots of that. So it's Eidos Montreal. That was one thing I keyed in. I didn't realize it was that exact studio. Again, in-game footage. So I felt like that was big because there were lots of things at this year's conference that were not in-game footage. One of the things I noticed is she's a lot more fluid and she's a lot faster. At least the Tomb Raider reboot, and I haven't played the second one yet, I felt like she was almost a little tanky, kind of like a Resident Evil-ish kind of physics model. But this in-game footage, she was super quick and surprisingly fast in a lot of cases. She's a lot more combat-oriented in this third one, and I thought that was a very nice progression. A lot more stealth capability, so I don't know if you guys got to see any of the demo, but but if you played the original Far Cry, not quite to the level that she's doing things, but there was a lot of like you could like crouch and move through the jungle and you wouldn't be seen, and guards could walk right by you. There's a lot of that in this, but they actually have a term for it. I forget what the design term for it was, but she can actually kind of blend into the jungle, and she puts mud all over her and stuff like that, and then kind of yanks people from the darkness. So it's a little kind of scary, Lara Croft. Yeah, kind of
darker.
Little murdery, homicidal kind of Lara Croft, but
it is
I
called Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, it's a very. I feel like it's a little Batman-esque kind of Lara Croft, but yeah, it was great. I thought it was great game footage. The thing that turned me off was, again, they went with these faux. It looks like they're having these faux, what I call near quick time events, where they try and kind of mask and shade the fact that it's a quick time event with a lot of design chicanery, but the reality is it's a quick time event. But I don't know, maybe 60% positive on the game. The quick time event stuff turned me off, but a lot of the stealthy and very combat oriented stuff I found really appealing.
Yeah, I want to check this out when it comes out. I started Rise of the Tomb Raider, so hopefully I'll be able to finish that off before this comes out. And I'm assuming this is coming out this fall. Can't remember the release date exactly. If someone wants to jump on that real quick, I'll jump to the next
It's early September. I think second week of September. Yep.
Okay, cool.
14th, somewhere around there.
All right. So then we'll jump over to...
Yeah, we'll get to it. This is another weird one, I think, where the actual release date was announced in somebody else's press conference. But I'll double check.
We have a Monster Hunter World event with Final Fantasy 14. I believe there's like some creature. If I was actually kind of caught a little bit of this today, just going back through the news. So that's going to happen. We got Captain Spirit Life, which is let me get the whole. I had the whole title. It's actually kind of a long title, but this is based, or I shouldn't say based. It's in the Life is Strange universe. So it's kind of this kid, kind of playing like a superhero. Kind of look kind of cool. I'm assuming it's more of like Life is Strange and kind of like I can't remember the zombie one now. Forgetting Walking Dead games.
Yeah. I mean, it's by the Life is Strange developers. Yep.
Yeah,
and they've said that some of the choices you make in this game will affect Life is Strange too.
Cool. So we got that, and then up next, DB, if you want to keep on the mic, we got Dragon Quest 11. Want to talk on that?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, this is the as somebody who remembers playing the original Dragon Quest, this game just looks fun and like a big old anime cartoon. So they only mentioned the PS4 and Steam, right? There's a lot of this where you see at the bottom after the trailer, you see PS4 and Steam. You don't necessarily see Xbox. You don't see Switch. And so I think that is a theme for a couple of these games, including the next one here, Babylon's Fall.
Well, real quick, didn't they announce I want to say, was Dragon Quest 11 the game they announced for the Switch, but it's like sometime in the distant future?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, yeah.
Yes, they have said, it's coming, but have not said anything more, and they've said, actually, it's going to be a long while off.
Okay.
And very little mention of any of these games coming to Xbox, despite the fact that the press conference was on Mixer. I thought it was very hilarious.
Yes. Zeus, if you want to stay in the mic, actually, because we got Babylon's Fall, if you want to talk on that. Maybe? You had it down as a bullet point, maybe? You said one aside on platforms or something? That's what you put.
I think that's I mean, it's what DB said, right? Well, okay. Actually, at this point in the press conference, there were a lot of times I didn't see a platform sticker or whatever at the end of the trailer. So at this point, that's my only note. At this point in the press conference, which is maybe about halfway through or more, I was unclear on where a lot of these games were going. And then, like DB said, then later on, a lot of them were just PlayStation 4 and Steam.
Yep, and this was one of them too. I think this was one of the new ones, something that was not announced prior to this.
Yep.
Unlike, and as we're talking about all of this in terms of things that are not on Xbox, the next game here is one that is going to be on Xbox, but again, it's been on everything else for over a year and a half beforehand now.
Yep, Nier Automata is coming to Xbox. I think August, was it August?
End of this month, yeah, June 26th.
Oh, August, okay.
No, June 26th.
I'm sorry, June. Yeah. And I thought wasn't there a second one that they had announced, or no? Am I dreaming that up? I'm dreaming that. All right. So next up, we got Octopath Traveler. Swiss, you had a little comment on this one. This one's come for the Switch.
Yeah, I'm a little excited about this one. So what I like about this is it very much has that Super Nintendo JRPG nostalgia thing going for it, with like the sprite based graphics and whatnot. But I think I saw like an article a day or two before the press conference where the team on Octopath Traveler was talking like, yeah, they have Square Enix as a whole team now dedicated to making Switch games. And I feel like this Octopath Traveler is kind of their trial balloon to see how well that goes. But it's a step more, towards more commitment with Nintendo's platform. And the other thing, I don't think they announced it in the Square Enix conference, but they did in the Nintendo conference. But or maybe it was announced prior. There's a demo coming out in like a week or two for this one, and that's another thing that I've really been liking about the Switch is they're putting these demos out, and I'm enjoying being able to sample the stuff.
Yeah, this one definitely. Yeah, this one definitely looks cool. I just like the art style. It's like that sprites, but the 3D background. So,
gentlemen, hold off on your Switch love until we get to the Nintendo conference.
Okay. Real quick,
we've got to get through.
They said from the demo, your saves will carry over to the main game too. So.
Yeah. Okay. DB, did you have something else that you want to? I thought I saw you blinking on and off there before.
No. I think the saving of the saves for the demo they've done that a lot with like Bravely Default and a couple other RPG games on the 3DS. So it's nice that that's happening here as well. But yep. I will let you talk about a game that you were excited for, Prime.
Yes. So this is where I'll go into I guess kind of Xbox, because it's going to come up for Xbox and PlayStation. But Just Cause 4, very excited about this one. Looks gorgeous, just like I kind of mentioned in the last episode, where all these games really look unbelievable, actually, the graphic quality. So I know they're probably all running like on 4K and that kind of stuff. Even though I don't have 4K, still I'm sure it's gonna look gorgeous on my normal TV. I threw an article up there on our Flock channel about I think I threw it up there. I think they retooled the physics engine, or it might have been the whole graphics engine, but it just sounds like it's going to be a lot cooler with all the stuff you can do. There's weather effects and stuff like that. So I'm very excited for this one. Very looking forward to this one. I guess, Cleese, you had some.
Yeah, it's definitely a new engine. It's their new Apex. It's Avalanche's new Apex engine. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, and I'll just mention it as an aside for something for us to potentially talk about later. I actually felt like that was a problem for this year's E3. Is that the problem is that it's very like in the past you could show up at E3 with a game that had gorgeous visuals, and people would give you a standing O, and they would walk away, and everybody would be talking about how great that game looked. Now that's the norm. Everybody's doing 4K HDR. Every game looked gorgeous, and out of that, my big thing was that, okay, so that means now you have to show up at E3. Well, actually, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying you can't come to E3 and just show up. You can't come to E3 and just present us your gorgeous visuals because everybody's visuals look great. So it's got to be something deeper than that.
Yeah, hopefully gameplay or something a little bit more.
Just a couple more bullets on what you said, just to round out. Lightning, tornadoes, vehicles, new physics handling engine for the vehicles. Grapple now has multiple tethers, so you can actually attach like four to six anchor points onto something. You can off of those tethers, you can attach booster rockets and air balloons, essentially. So you can actually put anchor point tethers from your grapple on a vehicle, put air balloons on it, and float it away or blast it off. So it's then the enemies also are also boosted this time around. I saw one guy cloak. Another guy took his rifle and kind of did a little transformer thing on it and converted it into a mortar. And again, these are enemies, people who are firing at you, who are going to be more complex than last time around. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And unlike the other game I mentioned, Rage 2, where I felt like the AI was clearly nerfed, I felt this set was much more highly responsive. And they talked about machine learning and AI, which I'm sure everybody's using some element of now. But I was really impressed by the tech behind the AI that it looks like they're going to be bringing to the game.
Yeah, I think they had mentioned too that you can do some kind of leveling on the hook, the grappling hook, and you can like electrify it and do other things. So that sounds pretty cool. So little bit something different. And then along with the tornadoes, they also talked about just different weathers. There's gonna be huge storms and like sandstorms or just regular rainstorms and stuff like that. So it should be pretty cool. So up next we got The Quiet Man, and I think actually DB and Zoo. I guess because you wanted to talk about this one.
Yeah, here I just want to say something real quick. I was reading a little bit more about this, and some of Square's press about it says that it is a game that is designed to be experienced in one sitting. So it's a mixture of FMV, of motion capture, and so it kind of looks and very much like what they showed, which is interesting in terms of a creative take. But again, I think it's we'll see what it actually is. It's a Square game that looks really pretty. So when that actually comes out is a whole nother question.
Better be priced to match one sitting.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, so up next we got Kingdom Hearts 3, which all of us have a comment except for DB. I just want to say I'm probably gonna pick this one up. I think I just played a demo on like the 3DS or DS whenever they had released a game on one of those systems back in the day. But I've never played like a full game. But this one looks really cool. Just all the different worlds that they've shown. So I'm definitely going to jump on this when it eventually comes out. All right, let's go with Swiss first.
I think that this was definitely Square Enix's kind of flagship title for the year. And I'm going to tie this with my next comment, which was no Final Fantasy VII. I think everybody was waiting for Final Fantasy VII. And then, they did the big Kingdom Hearts 3 thing at the end of the conference. And it was like, are they going to talk about Final Fantasy VII now? There was nothing. So that I think was a disappointment. But Kingdom Hearts 3, I will say that my daughter saw that and like, I guess I hadn't been a good gamer dad, but she did not know that the Kingdom Hearts franchise existed. And she saw this and she was like, where has this been all my life? And so we actually went and she used her allowance and we got the PS4 Kingdom Hearts remix pack that has like all the previous games except the final chapter prologue one.
Nice.
But I think that, if you want to have a title that's going to set the pace for the year, I think there's going to be a lot of people excited about this one, especially given all the new franchises that are floating around in it.
Yeah, a lot of Pixar in this one, so I think that's another reason I kind of gravitated toward it. So I guess, Cleese, you have any comments on this one?
My only comment. So number one, this game was on everybody's stage, so it was on Switch, PS4, and Microsoft. What was weird to me, and I wondered if you guys picked up on it, is it was very strange to me how for a demo that was going to be featured so prominently that it had no in-game audio in it. It was just their voiceovers and background music. But none of the actual... The only place where the in-game audio was featured was, I think, on the Switch version. And that was because they had the added like Pirates of the Caribbean part up front. But everybody else, it was this weird kind of echo chamber of audio that just had dialogue with like non-in-game background music to it. So
yeah, it was all just J-pop trailer is really what that was for Microsoft and for Square. It wasn't until you got on Sony's where they had that additional layer of dialogue, and theirs was a more expansive demo.
Sorry, Sony's not Switches.
For the fact that it's a game coming out in January, you're right that there wasn't any actual live demo, and so this will be interesting as the week goes on here, and that people get a chance to actually play it, to see and hear how it plays.
You had me excited there for a second. I thought I was coming to Switch. Thanks a lot, I guess, Cleese. Let's see. Up next. Actually, no, that's it for Square Enix. Any thoughts on that one? Like I said, I didn't get to see it, so I can't give an overall impression, but looks like it was just trailers.
It was quick. It was 28 minutes. So
after 3 years, I think people were expecting more.
Yeah, it was like DBQ said. It was like a half hour. Only 3 release dates announced. I think this is my most disappointing of show for me.
Did they have like a stage presence, or was it just like trailers just going? Okay.
It was a Nintendo Direct, basically.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I think that was the first one, though, wasn't it? This first time they've done something like this, so I guess we can give them maybe a benefit of doubt. But let's jump into Ubisoft.
Let's get dancing, people. Vivendi is not buying us. We are our own company. Right. Let's start dancing.
We have Just Dance 2019. It was announced. Big shock there, but they had the big marching band going there at the beginning, so that was kind of cool. Beyond Good and Evil. I believe Gascles and Swiss have a little bit to say about this. Let's go with the Gascles first.
Yeah. So it was pretty amazing. Was the main thing. It was strange. So a big theme throughout the Ubisoft conference, and this is why I harped on about the in-game, in-engine bumper stickers on all these trailers. Ubisoft did not have those, and it causes me. While this is the conference that, like last year, at least right now, I'm holding off on my opinion of Nintendo. Was the conference that spoke the most to me, and I was most impressed by. Many of the games that they showed on screen did not say in-game, in-engine. So that's a little concerning. But the other thing is, there's another theme in the Ubisoft conference, which was. They just spawn development studios like rabbits. Like every single time somebody came out, I was like, Ubisoft Montpellier. I'm like, where the heck is that, and who are they? So like development studios coming out of the woodwork. But I was really impressed by the trailer. I was not as impressed that if you don't have in-game footage shown and you don't do a release date, then it's also confidence building to hear. That your game is playable on the E3 show floor. This one was doing a behind closed doors preview. So I think we're still a ways off. I don't believe we don't have a release date for this. It's a pre-alpha build was what Guillaume mentioned about it. The Javelin, which is kind of the spaceship that you see the individual character flying in, is a key part of the gameplay. They specifically called it an action-adventure RPG with co-op. So that is exciting and interesting. You leave the ship, and I think we saw footage last year of somebody flying around in a jetpack. That is a core part of gameplay. It looks like it's primarily you're in the Javelin, or you can fly around in a jetpack when you're on mission. They also did this very interesting thing. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's a favorite actor of mine.
This is what I was...
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Swiss. Yeah, take it away.
Yeah, this whole concept of... What is his company called? Recorded or something like that?
Hit Record.
Hit Record. Yeah.
So they're basically asking the community to provide content in the game, and he said it was more than just you upload some files and an intern looks at them and chooses 2 or 3 to go in there. He said it's like a collaborative thing that will appear in the game, and I imagine that this is going to be something ongoing throughout the game, so environments can change, and it's cool in that it brings like more of a community aspect to it. And but the other thing I like about it is, if you have this massive world, why can't you invite some contract out or outsource some of that content, so your artists don't have to sit there and think about every billboard that's on everything, and simultaneously you're actually you're diversifying and making your game world more vibrant. So it seems like a cool thing that they're working on, and I'm almost wondering why other studios haven't tried something like this before. I mean, I guess like the mod community, you can kind of think about it like that, but just the way they're presenting it as far as like, we want this stuff to be the core part of the game is interesting.
So I'm going to jump in and so I've been listening to Waypoint's discussion about this in terms of kind of what it means and how much the people who are contributing are getting paid, or if they're not. And it was never mentioned on stage. Gordon Levitt tweeted something out afterward that they've got about $50,000 that they're going to be using for funding. It is a really interesting and kind of creative application. I think how they do it and what this means in terms of how much assets are going to be crowdsourced versus what's going to be developed by one of their major houses. And and I think it'd be interesting to see if this is something that tries to catch on, or if this is kind of, if this is also part of, Ubisoft has like 20 studios that work on an Assassin's Creed game, and they've got just this one that they're working on with Beyond Good and Evil, right? And some of this is makes it seem like there's not a whole lot of faith in the studio behind this game if they're going this route rather than throwing resources at it.
So I mean, I don't know. My read and understanding of Ubisoft is that they're one of the few large publishing corporations that actually have a system, a talent management system that ensures that different types of skill sets and resources are funneled towards projects, whether or not they're geographically co-located or not. So it's hard to tell. I would also mention that it wouldn't be unusual in a software development lifecycle for there would be a period of time up front where you don't want that extra help, and as you're trying to kind of sculpt and formulate the architecture and get that nailed down, and then you hit a point where you're ready to onboard additional talent. So they continue to say things like the game's development really hasn't started yet, so that sounds to me like it's highly in that formative stage. I don't know. The only thing I heard that we're supposed to get more information at BGE Fest in the fall. I thought that was interesting that they're dedicating a whole week or some number of days or whatever it is to one game. And then I also thought it was funny and kind of cute because the Guillaume and I forget the lady's name who came out with him, Guillaume Brunner, and another director that came out with it. Their mics were still on when they walked off stage, and the lady was like, "We nailed it! We nailed it!" Like, you guys are adorable.
I actually noticed that a lot during their conference. That it was kind of because I had my headphones on because I was at work during lunch, and I noticed I can hear that background talk, like the producers or whatever. So it's kind of weird. So let's go. Any other comments on this?
I just don't think that I don't think that the community thing. I don't see it as being a core part of the experience. I just think it's a neat way to build up goodwill. So I can't see it as a substitute, like you said, for like resources. I never even considered it at that level.
All right, cool. So yeah, like once again, there was no release date or release window, anything for that. So probably next year at the earliest. Next up, we got Rainbow Six Siege. Excuse me, and I believe this was season 3 stuff, or can't remember exactly. I didn't write this one down too well here on my notes, but I know just more DLC coming out. And
this Rainbow Six Siege, they talked about the documentaries, right? They're doing some stories from the community. It was very much about how successful and how big their community is.
Okay, cool. All right, so next up we got Trials Rising. I just want to say, it's Trials, so I'm going to pick this one up. I love the Trials series. I've actually got all of them, even the one on the mobile version. So this one looks cool. Looks like they'll get into multiplayer a little bit more, maybe.
So are you picking up on Switch or on Xbox?
Come on. Did you have to ask?
No, but I mean, it makes a good use of kind of portable Trials. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
No, yeah, I definitely want to pick it up on Switch. It just looks cool. It looks like it's going. The last one was kind of like a future setting, so this one looks like it's going back to just like regular, normal dirt bikes and normal settings and stuff like that. So it should be cool. I guess, Cleese, it looks like you had a comment on this one.
Yeah, so I haven't played any of these games. They've just never. My understanding is review-wise, they've always had some rough edges. But I guess I have whatever. One was either free this month or free recently on either Xbox Gold or PS Plus. So DB's shaking his head in confirmation. This is another one that struck me about the studio. So it's Ubisoft Red Lynx and Ubisoft Kiev. I'm like, who the heck are those studios? But what this is the point where the theme for Ubisoft show really started coming out to me, and that the theme for this show this year was very much about community, them reaching out to streamers and YouTubers. And in this one case, I can't remember the guy's name, Fat Shady or whatever, they actually onboarded him as part of the development team to help him round out the design with feedback and actually do all the training videos and whatnot for it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I think, as you guys mentioned, a February 2019 release date and coming to Switch. So that was, I thought the opening of this was very kind of silly, but I think they stuck the landing.
Yeah, they had the guy come out and like crash through a little podium that was sitting there, so it was kind of funny. Actually, he rode on the bike and then he kind of like walked up on stage and like tripped and crashed into the podium.
Yeah, it was very classic Super Dave Osborne, right? For those of you that grew up in the '80s and Nike ads.
I thought it was that other game. There's another game kind of like Trials where it's like
Joe Danger.
Joe Danger, yeah, that's what I thought it was at first, but I don't think they did that one. As far as I
know. They didn't, because that was Hello Games, who then went on to do No Man's Sky.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. All right, so up next we got the Division 2 and Agassicles. This is another one that you wanted to bullet point on. I'm surprised DB you didn't have anything to say on this one.
Hey, DB, if you do have stuff, man, go ahead.
No, I'll let you go first. I have read a little bit more about it, so I can interject some things more and beyond than what they showed at the press conference here.
Yeah, so go ahead and head me off at the pass. So my rundown is, once again, this is another game that didn't specifically say in-game engine. That definitely at this part of the conference that was starting to concern me. Raids this time around was one of the big announcements, 8-player raids. But again, I say, what is exactly that? Does that mean? So raids can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different format. And DB, maybe the stuff you've read takes us through that. My big thing and the thing I felt that was really impressive, and if you could forgive the term, I felt was very ballsy on this one is, number one, the dude walked out and laid out the roadmap. And I thought that was incredibly impressive and very transparent and open. It's basically 6 updates planned over the year. It's a world update, which will be I interpreted it as a software architectural update to accommodate additional modules and classes of the code that they would be dropping. So there's basically their intention is to do a world update, let that stabilize, and then drop a DLC pack, which they say is going to be for free. I'll come back to that one at the end with some of the concern I have about that theme throughout the year. So it's this whole TikTok strategy. But their demo was playable at E3. And the other thing that I felt was incredibly ballsy, and the reason this title is on my short list of was this the announcement of the show, is they stuck a release date on it. And I was thinking, like, there's no way that they're going to stick a release date on this. But they put a release date out of March 15th, 2019.
So I'm going to say the release date was not a surprise to me, because it was in their financials that it was there where they said Division will come out this fiscal year. It was stated to their shareholders. Some other pieces that stuck out to me. This is a game I was really interested in to see how it looks, to see how it plays, to see how it's maybe hopefully not so much bullet spongy. And some of the devs that have been out there kind of talking around the demo have really kind of owned up to that fact of the limitations of kind of the enemies. And so they've got a lot more enemy types in there. They've got a lot smarter enemy AI, just like Just Cause, in terms of better flanking. They've got medic enemies who will revive down enemies. So there's a lot more here. And I think the other piece to go along with raids is that they're kind of trying to, at least they're giving lip service to the end game from the very beginning. And one of the things they talked about on stage was about how you choose one of 3 different classes once you finish the campaign. So they kind of acknowledge the campaign is there, but then if you want this as your loot grind, you choose a specialization, and then there's a whole lot more to come from that. So yeah, I'm really interested. Again, this was a game that I really enjoyed the first one of. I love the setting in DC, and I'm really curious to see how it comes together.
So minor philosophical quibble. I guess the reason it still impressed me was because I know they had it in their financials, but that to me is still not as going as far as to put a day and date on it. The other thing is they put it in March, which means there is no room, there is no quarter to be given, right? I mean, one other company who had a thing in their financials, I noticed it was very savvy that they put their date in February, because I was like, that's what I would do, because that gives me a month to slip before my quarter closes out, right? But there's the most they can slip is 2 weeks, and then they're out of the financial quarter. So that sounds to me to seem very confident that they're going to make that date. But
yeah, I think the other piece there, it shows the confidence, is that they went right from the press conference to the live stage to to play, to have to do live demos for people on the stream that wanted to continue to watch. So I think they are confident in this game, and I think they should be. So.
All right, cool. And just to reiterate, I don't know if we mentioned this Sunday, but the First Division is on Xbox Game Pass, so you can check that out. Which I think I downloaded it, but I haven't been able to play it yet. So up next, we got Mario Rabbids Donkey Kong Adventure, which is the DLC for that game. Which, like I mentioned in the post podcast show here, I like the musical performance they did there, because it was kind of like they kind of did the music along with the trailer or the little game piece that they were showing. So I thought that was kind of cool. Just a little bit better than the other musical performances within the other conferences. So just leave that alone. And then we got Skull and Bones. I believe, Agasicles, you have something to say about this.
Yeah, so this was actually one of my letdowns of the show.
Oh boy.
Of all E3. Some of it was very much repetitive from last year. It looks good. My sense of it is that so when I think about the footage last year and the footage this year, I think my guess is part of the reason for the delay is I think they moved this to a different engine. I think it was originally running on the Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I think that's Assassin's Creed 4 engine. I think that because the Assassin's Creed Origins engine is so much more advanced, I think they ported this to the Origins engine, which I guess is just a newer variant of Unity. So it looks a lot better. The big thing that the guy mentioned was that it's wolf packs. Your ability to join up with people. They showed in the demo that basically you got yourself engaged with you bit off more than you could chew. And, a Portugal man of war kind of appeared around the corner of an island, and so you were able to call in for help. The thing that I didn't like is that when you complete a mission with an alliance of people, then there's an opportunity for everybody to turn on each other. So I didn't like that, because that kind of tells me exactly what's going to happen every single time that you play with the Cretinous multitudes online. So, well,
that's Sea of Thieves. That's the problem with Sea of Thieves, is you can, jump anybody anytime, even in even the safe harbor. So,
right. So the other big thing, and there's one other significant game of this show that I also have this problem with. They showed what happens in a mission, but I still don't really understand what the game progression and therefore what the game is really about. I'm not even really clear if there's a single player campaign, or if it's just all kind of like Dreadnought, and it's all Sea of Thieves, right? You go online, you join up with people, you do something. They started that mission off with you sailing solo. So I'm like, does that mean there's a single player campaign or what? Actually, there's two other games this show that are significant games that I felt failed to convey and communicate what their actual game design is at its core.
Did they
along with this one.
Did they show any gameplay last year in E3, or just like the CG trailer?
Yeah, they showed essentially like this same scenario last year.
Oh, really? Okay. For some reason, I thought they hadn't shown any gameplay. All right.
Was it Skull and Bones that they were talking about your home island fortress or whatever is your base of operations, and or am I thinking of another game? And you'd get a mission, and then you'd go out and have to do the mission. Was that Skull and Bones? Because I got a very Monster Hunter World vibe when I heard that, but
I don't think this was it. I'm not saying that
I might be confused about which game it was, because
yeah, I'm not sure either.
There's been a lot of them. But
oh yeah. All right, so let's jump up to the next one. We got Transference, which was that a VR game? I can't remember.
It'll be VR and non-VR, in and out of VR. Yep.
All right, and then let's jump over to Starlink Battle for Atlas, and we got everybody on this one. So let's go with you, DB, since you're on the mic already.
So yeah, this was my surprise of this press conference. I agree with Gasicles, that this was a really solid press conference. I think they, even aside from the in-engine stuff, I think it was a solid show, even if it was goofy. But this one that I had no interest in last year. This is the Toys to Life spaceship game. Totally, nothing last year. And now, kind of as they showed the gameplay a little bit more, the space battles, the scanning of things on planets, after coming off of playing No Man's Sky and wishing for a little more direction, but enjoying the exploration of it, this seems to harness some of that. Some of the stuff I've been reading about it is that there's a lot of stuff to explore on the planets, that they're pretty busy, and all of them, they're not procedurally generated, so they're designed and crafted to be intentional. So I think all of that made me really interested, let alone the kind of surprise Nintendo announcement there. So that's my take on Starlink. Am I the only one that's positive about this, or am I the 10-year-old DB who's excited about playing with spaceships? Oh, Swiss.
Swiss.
Okay, Swiss, talk to me about why this is a terrible game.
Wait, hold on. Before Swiss goes, I just want to say I just want to echo your thoughts on I kind of got that No Man's Sky vibe on this too, and just kind of the look of it too, kind of remind me of that. Like as soon as they showed the planets, it really reminded me of No Man's Sky. But all right, Swiss, go ahead and just tear it down.
It's a Toys to Life game. That's all.
All right.
QED.
I got my Toys of Life right here.
So I'll say, one of the things about it though is that you have a ship, but you don't necessarily need that. It sounds like it can be attached to your controller, or it doesn't have to be attached to your controller. But yeah, it's a Toys to Life game, which means if you wait, and it's an Ubisoft game, which means if you wait 2 months, both of those things are going to be heavily discounted, and it'll be very cheap come the holiday season.
I don't know. I wanted, like when we were watching it, Agascles was actually texting, and he was all excited about the Star Fox aspect of it. And then they started, I think it was that conference, because I think it was shown multiple times. They did the Star Fox thing, and then they did the Toys to Life stuff. And it looked a little cheesy, like you said, 10-year-old level story and everything. But, but if it was like a arcadey Starfighter game, I would have been all over it. And then they did the Toys to Life, and it's just like, nah. I like the amiibos because I feel like they're like figurines I collect. I don't view them as necessary to play a game. And when you have games like Skylanders where it's like you have to buy the part to get the guy on the screen, like I don't like that. And so it really, it really left a sour taste in my mouth when I saw that.
Yeah, I propose we take a look at it later. Heck, it comes out October 16th. But, the Toys to Life folks are not an Ubisoft studio, right? So it's a slightly different scale, I think, maybe corporately speaking. So it might be interesting that maybe Ubisoft does something a little better with it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. It did look kind of goofy when they kind of showed it on the controller. I think that was a PS4 controller, maybe. But I mean, if you don't have to have it on there, that's fine. Which I'm assuming you did. So, but yeah, I mean, I like the Toys to Life obviously stuff. I got like a whole shelf of Legos and my Disney Infinity guys, so I don't mind it too much. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that will go out and buy every one. So it'll just be interesting to see like how, because I guess you can like switch off parts on the things. So I don't know how like deep they're going to get into that, and like each part is going to be like its own pack or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if they've really said yet.
You switch out parts. I saw a little video for the Switch. You switch out pilots. You have your base vessel, then different wings and weapons. I mean, they're gonna go all out.
They'll nickel and dime us to death.
Those of us, yeah. Well, anyway.
So I mean, high points, I guess, my were it is multiplayer, which I thought was very cool, and it is coming to Switch, which I think we mentioned. But
yeah, and like you said, Star Fox, they had the little thing with Miyamoto. They had the demo, or the first demo or whatever of the Star Fox ship. And
yeah, and this game shows up again in E3, and I think it, there's other comments from when it shows up later.
All right, so let's jump ahead here to For Honor. There's a new faction in For Honor. I guess all they've had is, I thought they had more, but I guess they just have the Knights, Vikings, and Samurai, and I guess they just added to those factions. Now there's going to be the Chinese fighting force, the Wulin, that they're adding, and I believe this is called Marching Fire, or maybe this whole DLC pack. So they're going to be adding that group of people, and I don't have a date for that. sometime. I don't know. I thought I had it, but so let's jump ahead.
I think it's 10/6. I've got a note here, 10/16/2018. Although by and large, I didn't write down dates for DLC, but this one I think is October.
Okay, cool. So we'll jump to The Crew 2. We got Agascles and DB. You had some thoughts on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, DB.
I think DB.
Well, I was just gonna say I played the closed beta, and then it's coming out with another closed beta or an open beta now next weekend. So I think that's for people who are interested. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of empty in places, but I can't tell how much of that is the beta and how much of that is going to be the live game. But it was a whole lot of fun. So I'm surprised that they spent time on it, considering it's something that's going to be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this one, I note this is a black mark on the show, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it. It was weird. I didn't like that every other game got like engineers, software developers, part of the creative team. But for this one, they brought out the brand director, which is another name for their marketing person. I was like, I don't know why that's treating it different. I thought the beta on 6/21 with the game releasing on 6/29 came off as very goofy and lame. I didn't understand that. I almost would have suggested that they not have had this in their rundown because it came off, again, giving me the heebie-jeebies about their own confidence in how this game is going to perform.
See, I think I was waiting for it to be a beta now, right? Like, okay, it's 2 weeks out from the game. Let's give it, everybody's interested on the stage, so let's give them something to play, But I'm surprised that it is actually a week out. Really, it's just a server stress test at that stage.
Yeah, and they showed our demo footage, right? They just it was a trailer. It's like the opening sequence, and I'm like, if the game's this close to a release, why in the world would you guys not show gameplay if you're going to bring it on the stage at all? I'm sorry, Prime. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, what do you mean? Call it a stress test with, just a week? Can they really do that much if there's like a huge problem with it?
Well, if it's a load problem, then you just, I hate to make Swiss is probably gonna eyes will glaze over that would grotesquely oversimplify this, but load is a matter of replication, right? So if you literally have too much load, then you literally just add servers. I know it's more complicated than that, but it's literally if the bridge isn't strong enough, then add more bridge, right? Which would be a good place to be for a stress test the week before launch. That's not like your net code is bad. That is you don't have enough resources. But it's just that the whole thing's weird.
All right. So finally, to finish off I think they finished this off with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I believe comes out this year on October 5th. Kind of surprising that they didn't skip the year this year. So, but yeah, this one looked really cool. Ancient Greece. So I'm definitely interested in this. I'm always big history guy on Ancient Greece. Kind of Egypt too, but even though I didn't pick that up, unfortunately. But I think this one, I don't know if it kind of looked like you had powers too a little bit, almost because you're like a demigod. Maybe I unfortunately didn't get to. Once again, I didn't get to go through and research this more. But looked like there was powers though, somehow in some way.
So it's set before Assassin's Creed Origin. 400, 600 years beforehand, and so the powers you get are from the Spear of Leonidas, which is from the first civilization, right? It goes back to the whole apple of whatever within Assassin's Creed lore. But yeah, that does provide some kind of extra human aspect to it in terms of ability.
Yeah, this was another one I just thought it looked gorgeous. So I guess, please, you got any comments? Nothing? All right. So that finished off Ubisoft.
I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Swiss. You're on there too.
I'm clearly delineated on the agenda.
I'm sorry. DB jumped in and that threw me off, so I thought he was the one. Blame DB.
No, I'm actually really interested in this one too. I played Origins a little bit, and I think at the time, I enjoyed the game well enough, but I was a little let down because I was expecting an Assassin's Creed experience from what I remember way back when. And I kind of probably didn't let myself get past that and just take Origins for what it was. And it was interesting. And I don't remember if they presented Origins this way a year ago. I don't recall. But he was talking about the game as an RPG. And So really just coming out and saying the series has evolved, and I'm a big fan of RPGs, and I really like the ancient Greece setting and the Peloponnesian War kind of aspect to it. So I'm probably going to pick this one up. This is one of the games coming out of E3 that I'm excited to learn more about.
So you bring up a really good point, and I think I made the same observation. I wanted DB to check us. So yeah, the note I wrote down as this whole demo started was, are these Assassin's Creed games anymore? Is there an Assassin's Creed? Because the big thing that spoke to me is, and it just struck me, I was like, you don't do the whole thing anymore where you like land on the street, pull your hoodie over your head, and do the whole blend into the crowd like shuffle walk thing. Like that wasn't in Origins, and it's pretty clearly not in Odyssey. But yeah, I mean, just one of the things that I thought were cool. You could pick male or female protagonists. I thought that was neat. The demo was playable on the E3 floor. This was one of the games that they did say was in-game footage. In combat, they showed one demo of combat. You get lots of options, lots of combat tools, I called them. So you can do a double sword parry. You can dodge, block. She fired, the female protagonist fired her bow from horseback. I thought that was pretty neat. And the coolest sequence was they do it's a battle on the beach, and it's an army-sized battle, but she has this personal thing of a person she's going after. But to get to him, she's got to fight her way through the army, and so it was a very kind of like cinematic movie-esque thing where you see her. I mean, she's trying to get to this person. She momentarily, like, basically has to stop to engage with a soldier that's in her way, or bumps into her and slay them essentially before she gets to her main fight. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then they closed the demo with a Minotaur, which I thought was very awesome, that you get to fight a Minotaur. And a release date of October 5th, 2018. So like Swiss, I was up on this. I still have a lot of Origins to play, so. But
I'm actually probably going to go back to Origins now that I have the bug. But it was also, you can interact with Socrates, who is performing the Socratic method on you.
Yes. Another comment about the beach scene. That kind of reminded me of, not that I've played it, but For Honor, of just what I've seen of it, because you have all these guys around, but you want to just kind of get to that, that one person. So that's kind of cool. And this is actually another reason I was interested in this one, was if they have a I forgot what they called it. Was it discovery mode, where it was kind of the educational mode where you can just kind of walk through the world? So hopefully they have that in here too. So that'd be cool. DB, do you want to say something?
No, they didn't announce it, but yeah, it's called discovery mode. It would be amazing if they do that again, and I hope they do. So yeah. Let's move on to the Sony, right?
Yes, let's go on Sony, and this actually will be the final one. We were going to try to do Nintendo, but that'll add probably another hour onto the show. So let's go through some Sony, and this is going to be, actually, I shouldn't say mostly, it's going to be all, I guess, Clay Swiss and DB, because I did not get to see any of this. So, and I don't have a PS4. But first up, we had The Last of Us Part 2. I guess, Eccles, you had a comment. What would you like to say?
Ellie is the new Lara Croft, and I think that's pretty cool. She was definitely kicking some butt through this demo. And in fact, I felt that, and I actually physically sat and watched every single conference except for Devolver Digital. But everything that we were going to cover, I actually sat through and watched. This was one of the longest game demonstration videos of actual in-game play for the whole show, and I thought that was very impressive. It set the tone at the. I did not think this was a particularly good press conference, but it definitely set the tone that this show was going to be something different. They opened with Last of Us Part 2, which was a very bold move. In combat, one of the differentiations in design that I keyed in on was when you get shot with an arrow, it sticks in you, and you actually, I think it will continue to do damage until you stop and remove it. One of the things I thought was very interesting, and I think it speaks to Naughty Dog's design, and Sean Layden, since this is his, not a quote, but it's essentially what he said is, this is a game that's going to force you to work through it as a player in terms of game design, but also think about it as a person. I think that nails exactly kind of what Naughty Dog is going for, and I think it's looking successful.
Yeah, I think that, it was a really impressive gameplay piece here. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to that. I don't know personally that I'm super excited, but I think I'm impressed though, right? I think there's a lot of the arrow piece, the way that she's using the environmental and picking up weapons. I think there's a lot of visceral aspects to that, but not in like a Bethesda visceral, here's some blood spatter, but in a real human kind of physical way. And so I think it set a tone certainly for the game, and it conveyed that message well.
That's a great comment, DB, and a thing that I think very eloquently highlights the difference between this show and Bethesda.
I just want to say, like, I agree with you guys that the demo, what impressive is an excellent way to describe the demo, and just from a technical aspect, I don't know how excited I am about the game itself, but that sequence was impressive. All the more so later on, because there were some of these other tentpole games coming that they tried to show it off, and I think that they kind of faltered under the shadow, I guess you could call it, of The Last of Us, or following that up probably cast them in a poor light.
All right, cool. All right, up next, actually, you know what? I lied because I got a question about the next one. Is Call of Duty Black Ops 4? What do they show exactly on Call of Duty? If anybody just wants to say real quick.
It was a quick little intermission segue, that there are classic maps coming to Call of Duty 3 if you pre-order Call of Duty Black Ops 4, right? It was, and then they dropped that Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is free on PS Plus. So it was not a whole lot, right? They didn't show any gameplay. They didn't do anything about the battle royale. There was no place on Sony stage or any stage where Call of Duty showed up except for this kind of teaser here.
Okay, cool. All right, up next we have
which was a slightly worrisome a bit. However, there is no way in the world that Bobby Kotick allows any Call of Duty title to miss its date. But really weird to me to not be on anybody's stage at this close to release.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if they want to save that for their own, they have their own thing in the fall. I think it's like August or September.
When is BlizzCon?
That I'm not too sure about.
Oh, BlizzCon is August or November. So anyhow, we're not going to speculate about that. Okay. Yeah, it could be, right? I mean, that this is where we get the marriage of Activision and Blizzard finally in conference and convention form. So I think the sizzle reel here, let's just go ahead and skip over unless anybody has a whole lot here. These were games that were announced during the last week. So these are things that were already out there. Tester's Effects, Days Gone, we already know about. Beat Saber is the rhythm lightsaber game, which was also announced. So these were things that Sony was kind of trickling out in the week before E3 and getting a little bit of press with them each day.
All right, cool. And then up next we have Ghosts of Tsushima. Ageskles, you want to actually Ageskles and Swiss have comments on this. Ageskles, if you want to go first.
I just liked it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. Swiss had a different opinion, I think.
All right.
After seeing the trailer from last fall, I was really hyped about this game, and it was kind of a letdown for me. To be honest, I mentioned with The Last of Us, the combat seemed very. I mean, just the gameplay seemed natural. Like I could tell. I felt like somebody was playing The Last of Us, like that whole sequence. I mean, it may have been pre-rendered. I don't know, but if that was actual somebody out of control and they recorded it, it was so fluid and looked so natural. And it may just be Ghost of Tsushima is so far out, but it seemed very. The animation seemed very stiff, and this might be coming from me also having just completed Horizon Zero Dawn, and seeing Aloy scale up walls and the mountains, and just the combat in that, and then seeing that, it just felt there was there's something there that was missing. They have all these gorgeous visuals, but then the characters seem too robotic. And something else that concerns me a little bit, I saw a commenter, they said, hey, the combat almost reminded them a little bit of the Arkham games. And while I enjoyed Arkham Asylum, I'm not a huge fan of that style of combat. So I'm waiting to see how that's going to come along. The whole demo of Ghost of Tsushima didn't have any like HUD or display, so I have no idea, how realistic the sequence we saw was, and it just, I wanted more, and I wanted a little more polish on the actual combat. So the combat system is going to concern me a little bit.
Who was the developer of this one again? I can't remember.
Sucker Punch.
And they did
Infamous and Sly Cooper.
Okay, I just want to. I knew they had done some stuff before. I just couldn't remember what it was. All right, so up next we have Control, and once again we have Agasicles and Swiss. Swiss, let's go first this time. What did you think?
I will kind of mirror Agasicles and say I just thought it looked cool.
All right.
It reminded me of the Matrix.
All right, Agasicles, comments?
Now, I had a question for DB. I thought Remedy was a Rockstar studio. Am I wrong?
No, Remedy. So Remedy is the Alan Wake people, right? Quantum Break. This game, when it was so, this is a game I was surprised at and actually interested in on the Sony's floor, because we knew Remedy had gone third multi-platform after finishing Quantum Break, and the whole gameplay mechanic of kind of slowing down and altering time, it was almost very Inception-like, but it feels very much like it was built on the foundation of Quantum Break.
All right, cool. So up next, excuse me, we have Resident Evil 2. Looks like a remaster. Agasicles, you had a comment on this.
I'm containing myself in Control. This announcement, like, I'm having a hard time down selecting exactly what my best to show was, but this is in the running.
Really?
Yeah, I try not to get emotional. So this is Resident Evil 2 is the only Resident Evil game in the franchise that I've ever played all the way through and completed. In my mind, it formulates what Resident Evil is to me in terms of lore. I think this was the last Resident Evil game, or it's maybe not. So Resident Evil, the movie, was 2002. When I heard that movie was coming out, what I wanted to see was the stuff from Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil, the movie, came out in 2002. What I was looking for was a movie about Resident Evil 2, which some of that lore is, they're in Raccoon City, blah, blah, blah. This formulates a very large part of my mind of what the Resident Evil franchise is. And then the thing that floored me is it's really weird. It's not being called a remaster. That's not in the title. But this is a new from-the-ground-up game. This is not a palette swap. This is not addition of 4K HDR elements. This is new code. The character models look radically different from they're what do you want to call it? They're mocapped, facially captured models with new actors. This is incredible. I can't tell if it's going to play with tank-like controls or if it's going to be. It may be done in the same engine as Resident Evil 7, but it's, man, I'm there.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I think the way they teased it, I think it got probably the biggest crowd pop of the night. So I think that, again, the timing of it is excellent. It's one of those kind of, it was rumored, but it was a nice surprise to see when it was coming out. So, and another game that was not anything related to tonally of Resident Evil 2 is Trover Saves the Universe, which is by the Rick and Morty guys. They've also kind of done a little bit within VR on PlayStation VR with a couple pieces here. Totally shift in tone, very lighthearted after a number of very serious games on the Sony floor. But again, I've been waiting and interested in what a platformer in VR looks like, and so I'm be curious to see how this plays out and if it has that same sense of humor that some of their other titles like Accounting Inc. and other things did. So moving from a VR platformer to a showy Squaresoft platformer, action RPG, we get Kingdom Hearts 3. And anybody, did we talk about all our Kingdom Hearts love or hate or confusion over the story parts? Zeus, you own Kingdom Hearts. Is this a game that is interesting to you, or
no? Learn my lesson with that error on my part. I did the 1.5, 2.5 remix, and I actually was going to skip my comment. My only comment on this one is, like I said, this is at this point has been shown on 2 other press conferences before. This is the one where we finally get the release date of January 25th, 2019.
I think it was interesting too that I think they showed a different kind of aspect for each conference, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of.
I thought Microsoft's and Square's were essentially the same, or at least had some of the same footage. But like DB said, it was the Sony one that was definitively different with a different opening sequence.
Yeah, but the other question I have is, why do you keep experimenting with the genre you hate? That's all I keep. Every time you try one of these Square JRPGs, you seem to come back bitter and emotionally scarred.
Topic for a different show. But I get what you're saying.
Okay, we're moving from one confusing story of the Kingdom Hearts lore into a potentially realistically totally confusing game of Death Stranding. But we actually get some what looks like gameplay as you wander around delivering packages or wrapped up bodies on your backpack.
Do we? I guess that's my question. Do we think we actually saw gameplay?
Well, it is Kojima, so who knows?
Yeah. But I got this. So I was seeing that, and this is one I was excited about because I love Hideo Kojima. So, you know, a lot of people are like, "Wow, it's so weird," and it's like I just like that the guy does weird stuff sometimes. But when I was seeing the player like going through, and I think what's his name, Sam mentioned something about being a delivery guy or something to that effect, I think, in the trailer. And then we started seeing him kind of wandering through the. At first, I was like, that looks odd, and then I thought, well, maybe they're going for like a Shadow of the Colossus or Eco vibe, where because I noticed he was like kind of going across a like a ladder bridge type one thing, and there might have been something where he had to kind of mess with his packages to make his way across. But I'm wondering if this whole from point A to point B traversing the level is kind of a puzzle aspect is part of the game, and it's not, you know, as much of a shooter as it is. You know, those elements aren't going to be front and center. More, it's going to be like you versus the environment, and then the other aspect of the trailer is I think they said that the rain causes you to age more rapidly, your time to flow more rapidly. So like, you know, the hostile world itself, plus you have these kind of creepy monster things. So, you know, and I can be into that.
So my feeling is this was a big tech demo, and it was one of my top 2 letdowns of the show. I'm trying to neck down to my one. My challenge for anybody would be tell me what genre this game is and read me the first 2 lines of the back of the box, because I don't think we know what it is yet. Still, it was a very lengthy demo that to me looked like a very nice 4K HDR walking simulator.
And I think that's the point, right? This is Kojima, so we're not going to know for a while, and I think that they're enjoying kind of the mystique around it.
Yeah, he loves playing coy.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me again?
Yes, we can. So we're ready to. I think we're ready to move on and try to wrap up Sony here as we are hitting our 90-minute mark.
All right. So we got Neo 2 was announced, I believe, and Spider-Man with Zeus and DB. What are your comments? What did you think?
My only comment is this was a great way to awkwardly wrap up the end to an awkward show. If you actually watched the footage, it was this demo stopped and everybody in the crowd looked at each other like, is the show, like, what the hell's going on? Is the show over? And I was like, great punctuation mark, Sony, because that pretty much defines your entire press conference.
Yeah, right. I think there's so many issues we could talk about with the press conference and timing and tone, and you know, But yeah, you're right. They wrapped it up with like the battle of the Sinister Six up on top, or the potential sixth person, and then they just kind of cut to the crowd who was in confusion. But I think the part of this that really excited me about the Spider-Man was not the press conference, but it was right after the show. So you get back out on their transition stage, and you have the Insomniac devs out there and kind of playing through it and showing real gameplay, right? And you get a lot more of that, and you see, what this game looks like. I've been reading some things in terms of maybe there's some questions about camera control, but a lot of the people that I've been listening to that have played it have come away really positive about it. And for someone who, just enjoys Spider-Man as a character and the idea of swinging around New York, I'm very interested and excited about this game.
Nice. And they said this is absolutely like Sony exclusive, right? No chance.
Yes.
Xbox.
100%.
All right, I figured.
Yeah, it needs to be, and it should be, since this very large gaming corporation that's leading the pack right now had a whole E3 press conference and only announced 2 release dates. I think that's appalling.
I love angry Agasicles.
well, with that, I think we're wrapping up Sony and our episode. Like I mentioned, we're gonna hold off Nintendo for Thursday, just because there's a lot there, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to go on for another 2 hours here. So before we go, though, any last thoughts on Sony or any of the other conferences here that we talked about tonight?
The best is yet to come.
Really? Oh, well, see, now we got some Thursday talk to go on. So, all right. So Swiss is primed and pumped for Nintendo. And yeah, I'm interested to hear kind of the wrap up here, hearing some of Agasicles' disappointments and where we think some of our highlights are going to be for the week. So I'm interested and eager for Thursday to come, gentlemen.
Yes. So we'll go over Nintendo. We'll go over the PC gaming show, and then just stuff that gets shown on the show floor and through the various outlets, websites, and stuff like that. So for Mr. DBQ Hams, Swiss Guard, and Agasicles, I'm Osiris Prime, and we'll see you on Thursday.